Okay, students, today we need to look at what is implicit intents. So just to recap again what explicit intents is, you can see when you go to developer.android.com, you can go to intent and intent filters, and you'll get to intent types. So there's two types of intents, explicit and implicit. So what we did previously is the explicit intents to specify a component to start by a name. You typically use an explicit intent to start a component in your own app because you know the class name of the activity or the service you want to start. For example, start a new activity in response to a user action, or start a service to download a file in the background. So what we did in the examples in class is we started new activities. So with implicit intents, we do not name a specific component. We don't start a specific activity, but instead we declare a general action to perform, which allows a component from another app to handle it. For example, if you want to show the user a location on a map, you can use an implicit intent to request that another capable app show a specified location on a map. So basically we could call somebody from our app, or show a location on a map, or whatever we want to do that's not part of our application. So we are actually shouting out to the whole Android system, is there anyone that can help us with it to do a specific task, like for instance make a call or show a map. So we don't need to add that specific component to our application, but we can use the applications that are already on the phone. So let's go to Android Studio and see how we can use this. So this is just a blank activity. So you can see this main activity, nothing in it. In the content main, also nothing in it. So for this example, we're just going to add two buttons to the screen. So I'm going to add two buttons to the screen, and let us just quickly set up these two buttons. Maybe we could also set a medium text there to just show some text there. So we're going to go into resources values, into the strings XML, and let's add some data there. So we're going to say string name equals, let's just call it implicit. Close it down, and we're going to say implicit intent example. Okay, and then if we go back to our content main, we can set the text there. So just click on the three dots, and we can set the text to that implicit. Okay, so that's just going to show at the top. We can go to new button and then just set the margin at the top, let's say 15, and for that button a margin at the top of 10. Okay, now to set the text on these buttons, let's go back to string XML, add a new string there. Let's say the first one, just to place a simple call. So we're going to say place call, and it's going to say place call. And then the second one, we're going to have something like call friend. Okay, so we've got our two string values there. We can go to the two buttons then, select the text, and go to place call for the first one, and the second one we're going to set to call friend. Okay, so basically what we want to do now is if the guy click on place call, we're going to show, or basically pull up the dialer of the phone, and the guy can enter the number. And then when we click on call friend, it should bring up the dialer and already have the number there. So let's look at place call. If we go back to the main activity, let's just set up those two buttons quickly. So it will be public void btn place call on click. View v in brackets. And then for the second one, that's just to call the friend. So we're going to say public void btn call friend on click view v. And then we connect those two to the buttons. So if you click on place call, you go down to the on click property, select it from the list. The first one will be place call. Second one to call the friend, also on click property, select the call friend. If you go back to main activity, you'll see that those two now are not grayed out anymore, so we have connected them to a specific button. So now in order to pull up the dialer and see how we can call somebody, we can go and say intent equals new intent. Alt enter for your import there. It will add the import at the top nicely. And then in brackets, instead of now launching a different activity, we're going to make the following call. We're going to say intent dot, if you start typing AC action, you can see action call should be there somewhere. Action call. And then we're going to say start activity. And then in brackets, just passing the intent. Okay, so if we can quickly run it. Okay, the error that it gives us here is to basically go back to our manifest and quickly just add user's permission here. So we're going to add that at the top. So you're going to say user's permission. And then you're going to go down and search for call phone. So you'll see for call phone there, and then just close it down. Just using the / and then it closes it down. Okay, so that's basically just adding a permission so that we can use the phone's dialer in order to call somebody. So if you go back to your main activity, this one. Okay, so this should actually be not action call, but action dial. So if you go to action dial, you see the problem there is gone. And now if we run this application, we run the application. I have a Nexus 5 device running here at the bottom. Let's just give it some time. Okay, there we go. We can see implicit intent example. If we click on place call, you'll see it opens up the phone's dialer. So I can enter a phone number there, and then I can click on call. So it depends on the specific phone and how the dialer of the phone basically works. So it opens up the default dialer of the phone, and then it starts to place a call. So we can just check that out again. We can go to place call. You can either enter the name or the number at the top or at the bottom, but it basically brings up the dialer of the phone. So I can type the number here and then start calling. So this is the normal intent action dial. So you can see that basically when our application goes, we go back to our application. If we click place call, it shouts out to the system, who can help me with placing this call? And then the dialer of the phone basically comes up, and then we can place a call. So what we'll do next is to create a new application. So not just a new activity, we're going to create a new application that will run on the phone that will also help us. You can see that basically when we click on the first button, there's only one option that appears on the screen. I can just get to the app again. We run the application, we click on the button, it directly goes to the phone's dialer because this is the only application that can support dialing a number. So let's go and create our own app that will also be able to dial a number, or, well, we're going to say it will be able to call a number, but it will actually not be able, but it will be one of the options that we can choose from the screen. So we're going to create a new application. So you're going to say File, New, Project. And then we're going to call it Phony Phone. So it won't be a real phone. And then we're just going to say Next. Let's run Android 4.0. That will be fine. And we're going to use a blank activity again. And the main activity is fine. And then say Finish. So then just wait for the application to create. And then we will carry on. Okay, so mine is done loading. So I've got Phony Phone now. So basically, you can see that I've got this one and I've got Phony Phone running. So we're going to move between the two. So in Phony Phone, I'm just going to go back and change. It's probably not really necessary, but I'm going to put a linear layout there and just go with the Android orientation or vertical. If we go back to design, you will see your layout vertical with a text view there. I'm going to just delete that text view. Let's make a bigger one there, a large text there. And we're going to set the text in the strings XML. So I'm going to say string name. String name equals, now for this is just simple text that we're going to put there. Let's call it welcome, a welcome message there. So we're going to say something like, just kidding, this is not a real dialing or real call application. Okay, so we're going to go back, set the text to that one, welcome, and it's just going to show, just kidding, this is not a real call application. So what do we want to do with this specific application? We're going to run this application on the same phone, so that when we click on this place call button, it should give us this option for this application as well. So how do we do it? How can we make this application of ours also pop up as a choice? When we say place call at this stage, it actually just opens up one specific application, the only one that can handle a call. But we can actually create this application in a way that when we click that button, it's going to give us more than one choice, because our application will also be able to handle calls, although it won't actually be able to handle calls. You can create your own dialer and so forth and just use it on your phone in this specific way. So what we want to do is to go to the Android manifest file. Now if you go to the Android manifest file, you will see that on the main activity there's an intent filter. So we can go and add some filters there in order to make our application do something else. So in the main activity, we're going to add a second intent filter there. So we're going to say, you basically type intent filter there, close it down, and then in between those two, we're going to add the following. You can see there's an action and a category. So we're going to add those as well again. We're going to add an action, and then you can add an Android name there. And the name here will be Android.intent.action, and you can go down to action dial. Now if you close it down, it looks like that, and then we can add the category as well, which will be Android name, again Android.intent.category, and we're going to go with the default one. And just close it down. Okay, so basically what we're doing here is we're setting the action to be action dial. So in the other application, this one, when we call action dial, it's going to shout out to the system which of the applications on the phone can actually handle an action dial. So on the phone, we said that this specific application can handle the action dial by just adding an intent filter to it. So now if I run this application on the same device, let's just wait for it to run quickly. Okay, so it should run now. There we go. It's running. It's just saying, just kidding, this is not a real call application. So if I click on back, I'm back at my normal application, or my first application, this one where we just call the action dial. So if I click on place call now, you can see it gives me two options now. We can use the phone's own dialer or the phone application that we just indicated. So in the manifest where we set that intent filter to be action dial, we actually made it one of these choices. So if I click on phone now, it will launch phone. We can say just once there or always. Just don't click always now. You can say just once. And then it shows, just kidding, this is not a real application. So again, this works nicely now. I can also go and say, well, let's use the phone. That's the phone's own dialer. And we can dial a number. Or I can use my own application, the second application. So we can go and say, well, let's use phone. And then it goes to our application. So this is a nice way to actually build your own application that can do stuff on, well, Android, any Android device. Okay, so let's say that we want to now go, we are still at phony phone, so let's just go back to the other one again, where we've got the second button. So let's say on this button, we want to now click on call friend. And then when we click on call friend, we want to call a specific person. We don't just want to have the action dial there, but we want to basically get into the dialer of the phone with the number already there. We want to call somebody specifically. So we're going to say intent equals new intent. Again, we're going to add that part that says intent dot action dial. I'm again a call. Okay, so it's going to be action dial. And then for the second argument, we're going to say URI dot pass. And then in brackets, it accepts a string there. So the string will be tel. That's the identifier called tel. So that just indicates it's a telephone number. And then you can type any telephone number there. And then after that line, we're going to say again, start activity. Not for result. Start the activity, passing in that intent. Okay, so let's see how that one works now. So if we say run, and we run the app, so you can see basically all we did, what is the difference between the two? This one has just got action dial, and this one we add a telephone number to it. So if we say okay now, let's see what's going to happen on this application now. Okay, let's see it run. There we go. So if I say call friend now, you can see it automatically adds the number. I can just click on dial. So that's the difference between the two buttons now. If I go back, if I just click on place call, it's going to give me the option between the phony phone or the normal phone dialer. So you can see that I can enter the number myself. The number is not there. I need to enter it. And where the second button actually adds the number automatically for us, so we can directly start calling. But now you can see the problem that we've got here is, let's say I wanted to use phony phone as an option here as well. By clicking that button, just go to the application again. By clicking this button, it doesn't give me the option for phony phone. If I click that one, it gives me the option for phony phone. But if I click on call friend, it doesn't give me the option. It directly goes to the phone's dialer. So this is now again a different intent filter. So let's see how we can set up that intent filter. Okay, so let's go back to the manifest. Now obviously not into this one, but you need to go back to phony phone. And then you can see that where we added the new intent filter, we're going to just add some data there. So we're going to say data, Android scheme. And then in this case, we're just going to add that specific value that says tel. So basically, we're saying that this specific application can handle the dial where we send through some data, which is the telephone number. So let's try and run this application again, the phony phone. Run it again on the Genymotion device. Okay, there we go. It says, just kidding, this is not a real call application. If I go back again, just get to my first application. If I click on call friend now, you can see now it gives me the option for phony phone, because call friend is sending some data through, which is the telephone number. So if I click on phony phone now, I'm just going to say just once, it just goes to my application. But if I click on call friend and then say phone, it places the number there for the phone automatically. Now another problem that we've got here, if we added that to the intent filter, if I click on place call now, it doesn't give me the option of phony phone now. So there's a slight error or slight thing that we need to go and change in the manifest to basically pick up both. So relatively easy to correct that specific problem. You can see that we've got the intent filter, so I want you to copy that intent filter. So we just need to add it a second time and remove the tel part there. So basically what we're saying is that this application of ours, this phony phone, can handle the action dial where we add the telephone number, and it can also handle the action dial where we do not add the telephone number. So we need to have both in order to pick up both. So if we run this phony phone again in the emulator, okay, just kidding, this is not a real application. So if we go back to our application again and we click on place call, it gives me the option of phony phone. If I go back and I click on call friend, it gives me the option as phony phone. So which means that it can handle now both ways that we can call, one where we send through the telephone number and the other one where we do not send through the telephone number. Okay, so let's say that we are in phony phone now and we want to get whatever telephone number was passed through for this specific telephone number application. So we're going to go and add a new medium text there, and we maybe just set the margin there of top 20. Let's just give this thing an ID. So we're going to say ID, that's just a normal text view. So we're going to say TV telephone number. We're going to set the telephone number that was passed through on this text view. Go to your main activity. Just set up that text view quickly. Anywhere after your set content view, we can set it up. So it's got TV telephone number equals, that's a normal text view. Find the view by its ID, and it's the same name. So now we've just connected the TV tel there with the component there, which is TV tel. Okay. So basically what we want to do now, remember that when we go to this one again and we say intent action dial, it shouts out to the phone for all applications that can handle the action dial, as well as the one that can handle the telephone number. So with this intent, there's some extra data that goes through with the second argument there. So there's data that will be this telephone number. So how do we get the data on the other side with the phony phone? So for the phony phone then, we've got the medium text there, we've got it connected, and now we want to see, right, how can we get that telephone number to maybe use it in our own application? So remember that there's an intent that activated this application now. What is the intent? It's this intent that asked for the action dial and sent through the data. So if I go back to phony phone again, I can go and test for this data now. So I'm going to test if, you could add this there. If you remember that get intent, the method get intent actually returns the intent that activated this activity, which will be the one that holds the telephone number as well. So we're going to say get data, which will retrieve the data, and then we're going to test if that value is not equal to null. Because obviously if we go back and we use the first intent, that part will be null because there's no second argument, so there's no data that went through with this specific intent. But with the second intent, we are passing through data, so then it will not be null. So if I go back to phony phone, it will obviously be null when we don't send through the number. So then we're just basically going to set something to, or it will not be null if we send through the data, and it will be null if we do not send through. So in the else part there will be if it is equal to null. Which one is equal to null? That will be the first button. The second button will have data with it. So if the value is not equal to null, it means that the telephone number has been sent through. And now we can set that telephone number to our TV tel. So we're going to say tvtel.setText. How do we get that value again? It's just this .getIntent, .getData, like we did in the if statement. But then we need to also say .toString. And it will get that data, convert it to a string, and we can show it on TV tel. The else part, if that value is null, then we're just going to say, well, the guy did not enter a number. So we're just going to say setText and say something like no number passed through. Something like that. Okay, so this is how we can get some data that was passed through. Let's run this quickly. on the emulator and see what happens. It's just waiting. There we go. You can see when we run it now, we are actually launching this activity. So there's no number being passed through. If we go back and we're going to say call friend and then say phony phone, we are passing through the telephone number. So you can see it picked it up nicely and it's showing the telephone number there on the screen. So if you've got your own dialing application, you can actually use this number now to start dialing that person or show it to the user as with the phone's own dialer. So if we just say place call, or if we go back to call friend and we click on the phone, you will see that's how it got that data to place it there. Okay. Okay, so now let's try something totally different. If you go to the phone, and I'm not sure if this is going to work in the labs, but if you open up the browser of the phone, and we go to Google, and let's type in something like tiger, wheel and tire. So any business actually, if you type in a business name, you will see that the business, I'm just going to decline there, the business got telephone numbers, or maybe that little phones there that you can click on the phone and it directly calls. So if I click on it, you'll see it brings up the phone's dialer again. But you can also see that we had no option for our phony phone application that we created. So we can add some stuff into the Android manifest again to make sure that even if the guy uses the browser in order to call someone, that we will also be able to help him with our specific application. So you'll see again, if I click on the call button, it opens the phone's dialer, but it did not give us the choice for phony phone. So let's see how we can change that. So it's actually very easy to fix. You're just going to go and add an extra action there. So we're going to say action Android name equals Android.intent.action, and we're going to search for view. So go to Android intent action view, because we actually view web pages. So we need to view the web page, and then we also need to add a new category there. So we're going to say Android name equals, and now we need to set browsable, because a web page, in order to respond from data from a web browser, it should be browsable. Okay, so we're just adding a view there because we are viewing web pages, and because we need to be able to respond from data from a browser, it must be browsable. So if we save and we run this application now again, it's going to install the new version on the phone, and then we just need to go back to the browser. Okay, so now the new version is on the phone. Let's go back to the browser. Should still have those telephone numbers. If I click on it, it now gives me an option for phony phone. So in order to work with the browser, we can just add view and browsable, and then everything should work fine. Okay, let's do some other interesting stuff. If we go back to, we can actually close phony phone now. We are done with phony phone. Let's go back to the other application where we only had the two buttons. So again, let's go and add some extra data or extra buttons to this layout. So we're going to add another two buttons there. Add two buttons there. I just want to see that layout, or that margin top was 10. So let's also put a margin top there of 10 for this button, and for this button the same margin of 10. Okay, let's go back to the strings XML and add some text for those two buttons. So we're going to say the first one will be to view a map, Google Map. So it will be view map for the button. And then the second one that we added, we're going to say view web, or maybe say view Google. I'm going to go to a specific web page. So we say view Google. Now you can save, and let's go to content main again, set the text on that button. It's going to be view map, the first one. Just go back to that string. Anything wrong there? Let's select view map again. Okay, so I had a problem there with the string resource. I just cleaned my application, so just go to clean project and rebuild the project, which should work fine. If it still doesn't work fine, you could also choose just a different display there at the top, maybe API 19 or 21 instead of running the newest version. Sometimes that also works, but in any case, if you run it on the phone, it works nicely. So it's just a rendering problem here, but mine is sorted out. So for view map, you can just go and click, or go down to your string resource, click view map, say okay, it will add the string there. Add the same for view Google, go to the three dots and choose view Google, and okay, and it will add it to the screen. So let's go and quickly set up these two methods for these two buttons. So if you go down, we're going to add two more methods there. So we're going to say public void btn, let's say map on click with view v, and we will have one for the web page for Google. So we're going to say btn, let's call it Google on click, and then passing view v. Okay, let's just connect those two to the buttons. So we're going to go to view map and then go to the on click property, select, for that one it's the map one, so we're going to say btn map on click, and for Google we're going to select the method Google on click. Okay, so all of the methods are now connected to the buttons, or the buttons to the methods. And now let's see how we can add some coding here in order to show a map, as well as show when how to open a web page. Okay, so let's try and do the first one, the map. So we're going to say intent. Again, we're not going to really do any coding here, because we are just shouting out to the application, or any application on the phone that can help us to show a location on a map. So in this case, we will obviously be using Google Maps, or if there's some other map application installed, that will also be given as an option, like we had Phony Phone now. So we're going to say intent equals new intent. As the first argument, we're going to say intent dot action view. Let's just go all capitals, action dot view, or action view. There we go. So it needs to be action view. And then for the second argument is the data. So action view will actually show on a map. So if we go to the second argument, we can go and set some data for that specific one to show. So we're going to say URI.parse, and then in brackets we're going to do the following. You're going to set up a string that says geo, then the colon, 0,0, and then we're going to put a question mark and a Q, basically for query. And now you can start typing your own query here. What do you want to search for on the map? So we could do something like 115 long way welcome Free State, and then we start the activity, passing in the intent. So let's see what this one basically brings up to us. So we're going to say run the app quickly on the emulator. This is basically how it looks. Just wait for it to run quickly. Okay, so it started to run. Let's see. There we've got the application. If we click on view map, let's see if the phone has got something there. Okay, let's just quickly have a look at that error. Could be that the phone does not have any application that can help handle that. Okay, there's an on-click problem somewhere. So let's just go and see there. Okay, so you can basically see that the error there is no activity found to handle the intent. So obviously when your application, and I don't know of any Android phone that does not have the maps function, but these emulators does not come with it. So if you run this on your own phone, you will see that it will not give you this error, but it will actually run nicely on your phone and show you the location on your phone that you've placed after the Q equals. So that's basically a geolocation, and the location will be whatever you enter there. So it's going to show it directly on a map. So let's try and do the second part. And the second part will be to show a Google web page, or just the simple, or any web page for that matter. So we're going to say intent equals new intent again. And then in brackets, we're going to say intent dot action view, viewing a web page. Second argument, URI dot parse. And then again, we need to add a string. So I'm just going to go to a new line there. And the string that we're going to add there will just be the website. So we're going to say HTTP. Let's just add www.google.co.za. And then we start the activity. Passing the intent again. Okay, so let's run this quickly again. Let's hope that this one will open up nicely. I think it will, because we already had the browser running, so I don't think there will be a problem with this one as we had with the maps. So let's see what it does. Okay, so there's the application. We click on View Google, and it opens up the browser. It goes straight to that web page. If we add something else here, let's say ethuto2.cut.ac.za. Let's run it again. Let's see what happens. Click on View Google. Obviously, it's not Google anymore. And it's going to go to ethuto2.cut.ac.za. So it depends on whatever web page you've got there, it will actually launch that specific web page. So you can see the difference between an explicit intent and an implicit intent. Explicit, we know which activity that we want to launch. We know the activity. We want to launch a specific activity. With implicit intent, we actually do not know which activity will be launched or which application will be launched. So we're just basically shouting out to the system and saying, is there someone, when I click this button, is there some application on the phone that can help me with this specific call, this geolocation? Or is there a specific application that can help me to open up a web page? Or is there a specific application that can help me to call a number when I send the number, or when I do not send the number, or when I click on let's say a phone on a web page? So this is the way implicit intent work. We're just basically making a shout out to the system and saying, is there someone that can help us? And then we can go and create our own applications like we did with the phony phone. By adding intent filters, we will be able to help any other application that shouts out to the system and say, is there something that I can use, or is there an application that can call, or is there an application that can show a web page? So we can use intent filters in order to get our application to appear when some sort of application just shouts out to the system to want to do something. Okay guys, this is the end of intents. We will look at intents later on again, but this is the basics of explicit and implicit intents. So this specific video just covered implicit intents.